The world of late-night television has always been defined by its relentless pace, a dazzling whirl of lights, laughter, and high-stakes creativity that unfolds live before millions of viewers. In the heart of New York City, within the historic walls of Rockefeller Center, an institution has stood for decades, shaping the comedic landscape of generations and transforming obscure writers and performers into household names overnight. To the outside observer, securing a spot on such an iconic stage represents the ultimate pinnacle of comedic achievement, a golden ticket to Hollywood prestige and enduring cultural relevance. The energy inside these studios is palpable, driven by a grueling weekly cycle of writing, rewriting, and performing under immense pressure where the margin for error is virtually non-existent. Yet, behind the bright lights, the roaring applause of the studio audience, and the glamorous allure of the cameras, lies a deeply complex ecosystem where artists must constantly negotiate their own identities against the massive machinery of a legendary television tradition. It is a place of intense collaboration but also of profound individual isolation, where the constant demand for reinvention can leave even the most talented performers questioning their place in the grand design. When an artist ascends to the heights of this demanding environment, their journey becomes a public spectacle, scrutinized by millions of dedicated fans who analyze every sketch, every character, and every subtle shift in the cast dynamics. The true nature of what happens when the cameras stop rolling, however, remains a carefully guarded secret, whispered in the corridors of television history and rarely revealed to the public until long after the final curtain has fallen. This constant tension between the public persona and the private reality creates a captivating narrative that draws us in, forcing us to wonder about the hidden costs of making the world laugh week after week. As we look closer at the mechanics of contemporary entertainment, it becomes increasingly clear that the platforms which once seemed permanent and unchanging are navigating an era of unprecedented turbulence. The digital age has fundamentally altered how audiences consume comedy, shifting the cultural center of gravity from traditional broadcast networks to a fragmented landscape of streaming services and viral social media clips. For a legacy show that has managed to survive and thrive for over half a century, navigating this shifting tide requires a delicate balancing act between honoring its rich history and embracing the chaotic evolution of modern media. Reaching a milestone as significant as a golden anniversary is an extraordinary feat in the television industry, signaling not just longevity but a profound resilience against the fleeting trends of popular culture. This major milestone serves as both a celebration of the past and a critical turning point for the future, raising fundamental questions about what the show will look like as it transitions into its next era. For the performers who find themselves anchoring the cast during such a historic period, the weight of expectation is immense, as they are tasked with carrying the torch of a legendary lineage while defining their own legacy in real time. If you appreciate these deep dives into the hidden dynamics of the entertainment world and want to stay updated on the most compelling stories behind the scenes, please take a moment to subscribe and join our community of passionate viewers. The stories of the individuals who inhabit these legendary spaces offer a fascinating window into the realities of modern stardom, revealing that the path to creative satisfaction is often far more complicated than it appears on the surface. The unique dynamic of an ensemble cast is perhaps one of the most challenging structures in all of the performing arts, requiring a rare blend of intense teamwork and distinct individual brilliance. In a show built on a mosaic of diverse talents, where no single performer is meant to outshine the collective whole, finding one's specific voice and utility can be an incredibly daunting endeavor. Each week, a temporary community of writers, actors, and creators must come together to build an entire universe from scratch, only to tear it down and start over again days later. Within this beautiful but exhausting cycle, a performer can easily find themselves cast in specific archetypes, serving as the dependable anchor, the versatile chameleon, or the distinct creative flavor that elevates a scene from ordinary to unforgettable. This subtle differentiation between being a central pillar of the production or acting as the essential seasoning that gives the show its unique flavor is a distinction that many artists grapple with throughout their careers. While the audience may see a dominant force who commands the screen with effortless charisma, the performer themselves may experience a completely different reality, feeling underutilized or constrained by the very roles that brought them fame. This disconnect between public perception and personal artistic experience creates a fascinating tension, particularly when an artist begins to contemplate the possibility of stepping away from the steady security of a high-profile television role to venture into the unknown. Recently, the entertainment community has been captivated by the evolving revelations surrounding one of the most prominent and beloved figures to have graced the late-night stage in recent years. This individual, whose distinctive style and undeniable charm helped define the energy of the show through some of its most turbulent and challenging seasons, shocked fans by making the sudden and unexpected decision to depart the series after nearly 7 years of dedicated service. The announcement sent shockwaves through the comedy community, prompting intense speculation and a massive wave of public discourse across various digital platforms. Initially, the departure was framed through graceful statements of mutual respect and gratitude for the profound lessons learned within the historic halls of Studio 30 Rock, emphasizing the deep love for the collaborative spirit of the cast and crew. However, as time has passed, new layers of this complex story have begun to emerge, offering a much deeper look into the specific motivations, internal doubts, and personal conversations that ultimately led to this monumental career transition. The latest candid reflections from this celebrated performer have sparked a passionate debate among viewers, with some expressing profound heartbreak over the revelation that the artist felt limited and peripheral within the ensemble, while others argue that the performer was actually the very face and focus of the entire program during their tenure. This growing intrigue sets the stage for a fascinating exploration of artistic identity and the powerful conversations that happen behind closed doors. The initial shockwave began in December, a month traditionally filled with festive celebrations and holiday-themed broadcasts, when Bowen made the sudden and definitive announcement that he would be stepping down from his prominent role on Saturday Night Live. This decision brought an abrupt end to an impressive tenure that spanned nearly 7 years, a time frame that represents an entire generation in the fast-moving world of late-night sketch television. To share this pivotal milestone with the world, Yang chose the intimate yet highly public medium of Instagram, crafting a message that was both deeply personal and profoundly reflective of the broader cultural moment. In his post, he expressed a profound affection for the institution that had been his creative home, writing with heartfelt simplicity that he loved working at the show, and most of all, he loved the people who made the production possible week after week. However, it was his contemplation of the historical context surrounding his tenure that truly caught the attention of cultural commentators and fans alike. Yang openly reflected on the fact that he occupied this legendary stage during a period when many things in the world started to seem futile, an honest acknowledgement of the collective anxiety and exhaustion that characterized the broader societal landscape during those years. Yet, despite this overarching sense of futility, he credited his time at 30 Rockefeller Plaza with teaching him a vital lesson about human resilience, noting that working within those historic walls demonstrated the immense value of showing up anyway when the people around you make the entire endeavor worthwhile. This initial statement, while filled with gratitude and grace, was merely the first layer of a much more intricate narrative regarding his departure, hinting at a complex inner journey that would only become clearer as the weeks unfolded and as the performer began to speak more candidly about the specific pressures and realities of his time on the show. A few weeks after the initial announcement settled into the public consciousness, Bowen chose to pull back the curtain even further, utilizing the familiar and conversational space of his own popular podcast, Los Culturistas, to provide a more nuanced and detailed explanation of the reasoning behind his historic departure. In this audio forum, away from the rigid constraints of official press releases, he spoke eloquently about the harsh realities facing modern creative professionals, observing that the current entertainment ecosystem has become incredibly turbulent and unpredictable. This volatility, he explained, creates an environment where actors and comedians have completely valid reasons for clinging to the stability of a long-running television gig, often staying much longer than they might have originally planned simply to secure their livelihoods in an industry undergoing seismic structural shifts. Conversely, Yang also pointed out the harsher side of this ecosystem, noting that in a lot of cases, talented performers simply do not have the privilege or the luxury of staying on a high-profile show for as long as they would genuinely like to, often finding themselves cast aside by the relentless demands of network television and executive decision-making. Recognizing the rare and fortunate position he had managed to cultivate through his years of hard work, Yang described his own departure not as a moment of defeat or frustration, but as a beautiful and deeply satisfying triumph of personal agency. He emphasized how incredibly meaningful it was for him to be able to say, with absolute certainty and pride, that he had managed to stay on the legendary comedy show for exactly as long as he wanted to, neither cutting his journey short due to outside pressures nor overstaying his welcome out of fear of the unknown. This revelation added a layer of profound professional satisfaction to the narrative, yet it also set the stage for deeper questions about how he truly perceived his own artistic contribution to the ensemble during those intense, defining years of his career. The conversation surrounding his departure took a dramatic and even more revealing turn when Bowen Yang sat down with acclaimed actress Rachel Sennott for a deeply candid and intimate conversation as part of the Celebrate, the Variety Actors on Actors series. It was during this high-profile media appearance that Yang made a series of vulnerable admissions that sent shockwaves through his fanbase, revealing that he had spent a significant portion of his final years on the show feeling as though he was never truly central to its core creative identity. He confessed to Sennott that he had actually been quite resolute about leaving the series an entire season before he finally made the leap, largely driven by a profound sense of uncertainty regarding what the historic program would look like as it transitioned past its monumental counterfeiting milestone and into its 51st year. Yang admitted that he looked at the immense wealth of talent surrounding him and genuinely concluded that the show was in a fantastic place without him, a self-effacing perspective that immediately prompted a sharp and immediate disagreement from Sennott, who spoke for millions of viewers by simply replying that she completely disagreed with his assessment. In response to her pushback, Yang sought to clarify his internal experience, explaining that he felt there was a very specific and somewhat weird utility to his presence in the cast, a reality that he had consciously chosen to accept over time. He noted that throughout his entire 7-year run, he was never the performer tasked with playing the conventional, grounded archetypes that anchor traditional sketches, such as the relatable father figure or the straight man schoolteacher who provides the logical contrast to the absurdity around them. Instead, Yang described his unique comedic role through a fascinating culinary metaphor, stating that he viewed himself as being there primarily to serve as the seasoning of the show, a distinct and potent creative flavor added to elevate a scene rather than the central ingredient around which the entire production was constructed. While he emphasized that he felt extremely lucky and grateful to possess a steady, well-paying job in the notoriously unstable field of professional comedy, he could not shake the persistent feeling that the time had firmly arrived to step out of that specific supportive role and seek out new artistic horizons, beyond the internal creative deliberations regarding his utility as comedic seasoning. This captivating interview also brought to light a fascinating and previously unknown behind-the-scenes drama involving the legendary creator and mastermind of the show, Lorne Michaels. Yang shocked listeners by revealing that his original definitive plan was to conclude his historic run at the very end of the landmark 50th season, a milestone that would have served as a natural and poetic bookend to his lengthy late-night career. However, this meticulously planned departure was dramatically altered when Michaels personally intervened, reaching out to the performer with a direct and urgent appeal while Yang was attending the prestigious United States Open tennis tournament. During this unexpected phone call, the iconic producer laid out a compelling case for why Yang's continued presence was absolutely vital to the survival and stability of the show during a period of massive institutional transition. Michaels explained that the upcoming 51st season would be defined by a significant influx of new, inexperienced performers, describing the incoming cast as a lot of new kids who would be forced to navigate the intense pressures of the live television's environment without the guidance of the many seasoned veterans who had recently decided to leave the program. The creator explicitly told Yang that he needed him to return for at least the first half of the new season to set an example for these newcomers, to serve as a steadying anchor and a beacon of professional experience during a chaotic period of reinvention. Michaels underscored the gravity of the request by telling Yang directly that his return would be very important to the legacy and the operational success of the entire production, a powerful appeal that Yang found impossible to refuse. This profound behind-the-scenes revelation exposed the immense hidden tension that defined Yang's final months on the series. illustrating how a performer who internally viewed himself as mere seasoning was viewed by the architect of the show as an indispensable leader whose presence was critical to guiding the next generation of comedic talent into an uncertain future.